down to basics, right? GDP, gross domestic product. It's how much the economy can produce. How much the economy can produce at its core, basic, most fundamental stuff is how many bodies you have that can work and how productive those bodies are, right? So it relates, so the growth relates again to the growth in the labor force, and the growth relates to how productivity, the productivity grow. So if you look at that 2010 decade, okay, our labor force growth was 1.5%, okay? The following decade, that growth was effectively zero, okay? 0.03, but zero for all intents and purposes. So just right there, you shaved off 1.5% from headline GDP growth, right? From a kind of supply side story, production side story. In terms of labor productivity, and there are a bunch of measures one could do, but a very crude one would be, say, looking at GDP per capita. If you look at GDP per capita, right, between that decade and the subsequent decade again, it dropped by about 2 percentage points. So you add those two things together, your headline GDP growth, that trend growth has gone down by about, again, roughly three something percentage points. So our own, again, estimate of what long-term growth is, and actually I'd like to hear what TDRI's is, but when we did the analysis for it, we saw, based upon these supply side factors, total factor productivity growth, blah blah, all the usual stuff economists look at, you add it all up, we look at long-term growth at ballpark here about 3%.
Potential growth rate.
Yeah, long-term potential growth, yeah, about 3%. So again, that's just to kind of frame, like, what the, not to expect too much, from the, when the economy recovers and they expect it to see much higher growth rates sustained over a long period of time. It's hard to do that when your long-term growth rate, given the demographics and everything else, is ballpark about 3%. Okay, so it gets back. So what can we do, right? Labor force growth, demographics. Yeah, not a whole lot you can do there, right? You can try to maybe, I don't know, encourage people to have babies, but it takes a long time. You can encourage immigration. So anyway, immigration, probably part of that story. But again, you can only get so much, and obviously too much, and then there's other consequences on the side, social, so forth, that are probably not that welcome. So there's so on the labor force growth, there's only so much you can do. So the core then, right, is to fix the productivity. Yeah. That's the issue. And that's the structural stuff that we need to do. And so what kinds of things can we do there? Well, human capital, that would be good. How are we doing there? PISA rankings. This is something I know you pay a lot of attention to. You probably remember them better than I do.
Yeah, that's right. But it's really difficult to improve the current curriculum and also the current educational system.
So yeah, on the human capital side, obviously, right, they haven't seen that much progress. But the other thing that we can do is investment, right? I mean, if you want to increase productivity at the end of the day, you got to do investment. But again, if you look at the investment kind of most measures of investment in Thailand compared to the region, we're lagging the region. Whether it's kind of growth rate over time, whether it's investments, a share of GDP, all those indicators look low. About 2/3 of our investment basically is to cover depreciation, so that the net new investment is quite low. So that's not happening either. And if there's one thing I would really like to see, it's another investment cycle. So the kinds of things that I would be really welcome would be things that would improve the investment climate. A lot of the regulatory reform stuff, ease of doing business, those kinds of things would be